He thought he knew the people who worked for him, until the evening he followed his housekeeper through the fog. What he discovered didn't just bring him to tears, it changed his entire life. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories that touch the heart. The morning had begun like any other in the towering glass home overlooking the Pacific coast. A coastal breeze pressed gently against the windows, carrying the sound of distant waves. Inside, the mansion hummed with quiet luxury, automated curtains gliding open, soft music echoing through the halls, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee drifting from the expansive kitchen. But one person was already wide awake long before the sun pushed over the horizon. Her name was Mira Daniels, the housekeeper who had worked in the Harrington estate for nearly 6 years. Mira moved through the grand home with practiced calm, straightening art pieces, organizing bookshelves, checking that the kitchen prep was ready for the chef who arrived later. She had an air of steady warmth about her, the kind that made people feel at ease. Even the automated lights seemed kinder when she walked under them. Her employer, James Harrington, founder of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country, barely noticed the mansion anymore. He lived in a world of spreadsheets, investments, board meetings, and interviews. He was used to convenience, used to things happening quietly around him, used to the presence of staff who kept everything smooth. But that morning, something was different. It started with a small detail, a tiny corner of the children's drawings taped inside a kitchen cabinet. He'd seen Myra's boys once or twice when they visited after school, waiting for her to finish her shift. He wasn't a man accustomed to noticing those small things. Yet somehow, that morning, standing in front of the cabinet looking for a coffee mug, the drawing caught his eye, 3 figures holding hands in a field under a bright sun. One of the figures was Mira, and for reasons he couldn't explain at the time, it stayed in his mind. By late afternoon, the city was wrapped in a soft blanket of fog drifting in from the coast. Street lights glowed like tiny golden orbs suspended in air. Mira ended her shift slightly early, something she rarely did. She thanked the chef, straightened the chairs around the marble island, and gave a quiet wave to the security team. Before she left, she checked her phone. A message blinked from her older son. "Mama, can we stop by the store? We need groceries for school lunch." She smiled. Her boys always tried to help, even though they were young. She replied, slipped her phone into her bag, and exited through the staff gate. James watched her from the balcony above. He didn't mean to follow her at first. He had stepped outside for fresh air after a particularly tense investor meeting, hoping the ocean breeze would clear his mind. But then he saw her, walking down the winding driveway, her step steady yet slightly hurried, as though she carried weight invisible to the world. Something inside him nudged, curiosity mixed with an odd sense of concern. Before he fully realized what he was doing, he grabbed his coat, took the side path, and followed her at a distance, careful not to intrude but unable to walk away. When Mira turned the corner toward the marketplace, her 2 boys ran toward her, the older one about 7, the younger around 5. They greeted her with the kind of joy that could melt the coldest day. The older boy carried a small list he'd written in big block letters. Bananas, carrots, bread, herbs. Mira laughed gently when she saw it. James watched from farther back, blending into the slow-moving crowd. He expected the family to hop into a car or call a ride. Instead, they began walking, together, hand in hand, down a narrow walkway lined with warm lights and storefront displays. The fog swirled around them like a soft gray curtain. They didn't move with the hurried rhythm of people in the city. They walked like a unit, close, connected, attentive to one another. James felt something tighten in his chest. Inside the market, James continued watching, though now from inside, pretending to browse the shelves. He saw Mira lift her younger son so he could reach the apples. He saw her older boy insist on carrying the heavier bag. He saw how gently she corrected them, how she knelt to their eye level, how she laughed with her whole face. And he heard something, too, the boys talking about her. "Mama works too hard, yeah, but she says hard work builds good things. I want to help more when I grow up." James paused with a can of soup in his hand. Something about the simplicity of their devotion, the way Myra's love wrapped around them even in an ordinary grocery store, reminded him of something long forgotten, his own childhood before his life became tangled in business and responsibility. He suddenly felt strangely out of place between the sterile wealth of his world and the quiet sincerity of hers. The fog thickened as dusk approached, turning the street into a dreamy landscape of glowing lights and reflective pavement. Mira carried 2 grocery bags, one in each hand. Her sons carried the rest. James followed from several yards back, observing quietly. But the longer he watched, the more he noticed small things he had never taken time to see. The boys' jackets were clean but slightly worn. Their shoes were carefully repaired rather than new. Myra's uniform was washed and pressed, but at the elbow, a tiny seam was stitched by hand. These details weren't signs of lack, they were signs of care. Mira raised her children with intention, pride, and love that didn't depend on circumstances. Every stitch, every packed lunch, every gentle correction was a testament to who she was. James felt an unfamiliar sting behind his eyes. He had built an empire that made headlines, but when was the last time someone had looked at him with the kind of love those boys gave their mother? When they reached Myra's neighborhood, a modest apartment building with children's bikes lined up outside, James stopped at the corner. He didn't want to intrude any further. Mira guided her boys up the steps, laughing softly as the younger one pretended the stairs were mountains. She balanced the groceries with practiced ease. Just before they entered the building, the younger boy fell, tripped on a step and scraped his knee. James instinctively stepped forward, but Mira was already there, kneeling, her voice soft, wiping his tear with her thumb, offering a hug and a gentle word that seemed to soothe everything instantly. Her world wasn't made of wealth, but it was rich, deeply rich. James felt tears forming, not out of pity, but out of awakening. He had spent years assuming he understood people's lives because he provided good salaries, benefits, and bonuses. But watching Mira showed him something he had forgotten. People carry entire universes inside them, worlds of love, struggle, hope, dreams, worlds he had never taken the time to see. And he realized, painfully, that he had never once asked Mira about her life. As Mira unlocked her apartment door, James finally approached. He didn't want to frighten her, so he made sure she saw him coming. She froze, startled, shifting slightly in front of her children. "Mr. Harrington," she exclaimed, confusion flickering across her face. He raised his hands gently. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to alarm you. I wanted to make sure you got home safely." The boys stared wide-eyed at the man they had only heard about. Mira stood for a long moment, unsure how to respond. James swallowed, unsure how to phrase what he felt. Words felt fragile. "I followed you today," he said softly. "Not because I doubted you, but because I realized I didn't know anything about the people who helped me live my life." Mira shifted, stunned. He continued, voice trembling slightly. "I saw how you love your children, how they look at you, how hard you work, not just in your job, but in your life. And it humbled me." The boys watched the scene, trying to understand. "I'm sorry if I overstepped," he said. "I just wanted to tell you, thank you. For everything you do. You deserve more than the world gives you." Myra's eyes softened, though she kept her posture steady. "Thank you, sir. I just do what any mother would do." He shook his head gently. "No, what you do is extraordinary." For a moment, the fog, the lights, and the quiet evening seemed to hold its breath. James cleared his throat. "If you're comfortable, I'd like to offer some support. Not charity, respect." Myra's eyebrows pulled together. "What do you mean?" "I'd like to fund your children's school programs. I'd like to provide transportation if you need it. And I want to elevate your position in the household. You've earned it." Mira hesitated, pride and gratitude warring in her expression. "My boys don't need everything," she said softly. "They just need love and opportunity." "That's exactly what I want to help you give them," James replied. The older boy tugged her sleeve. "Mama, is it okay?" Mira looked at her children, then at James. The fog swirled around them like a quiet blessing. Finally, she nodded. "Okay." James exhaled, relieved. "But one condition," Mira added. James blinked. "Anything. You don't follow me through the fog again," she said with a gentle smile. James laughed, a full, real laugh he hadn't felt in years. Fair enough. From that day on, everything subtly changed. James became more attentive, to his staff, to the people around him, to the unseen lives that kept the world moving. He made time to greet Mira each morning, to ask about her boys' school projects, to make sure she knew her work was valued. Myra's sons visited the mansion occasionally, not as children waiting for their mother to finish work, but as welcome guests. James showed them the garden, the home theater, the tech workshop. He found himself inspired by their curiosity, their bright questions, their laughter. One evening, while walking through the same fog-lit street where it all began, James realized something. He had spent years building a world of wealth, but it was Mira and her boys who taught him wealth of the heart. Months later, During a company event, James was asked a simple question. What moment changed your leadership the most? He thought of meetings, contracts, breakthroughs, yet none of them held the same power as that foggy evening. So he answered truthfully, it was the moment I followed someone who worked for me, someone I should have honored long before. What I saw wasn't struggle, it was strength, love, and dignity. It humbled me, and it opened my eyes. Mira, watching from the side of the room, gave a small, knowing smile. Her boys, leaning against her, whispered, Mama, that's us. And she squeezed their shoulders with quiet pride. Years later, when people asked James why he became known as a leader who put people first, who treated every worker with dignity, he always gave the same answer. Because someone showed me what real strength looks like, and I never want to forget. As for Myra's family, her boys grew up with opportunities she once only dreamed of, not because someone handed them everything, but because someone finally recognized the greatness already inside them, and removed the barriers standing in their way. And every time James visited them for holiday dinners, every time he saw Mira smile at her grown sons across the table, he felt the same lump in his throat that had formed that first foggy evening. The evening he followed his housekeeper home, the evening everything changed. If this story moved you, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more powerful, real-life stories that shine light on the strength, beauty, and resilience inside our communities. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. Thank you for watching.